So this is a lecture on Leibniz philosophy of monads, which is popularly known as monadology. So here we will discuss about what Leibniz means by monads. So monads for Leibniz are those metaphysical points which are like indivisible and simple units of dynamic forces, and they are simple and they are indivisible, that is to say they are unextended center of force, and each center of force for Leibniz is a metaphysical point which is immaterial. They are neither material nor mathematical. Instead, they are metaphysical points known as monads. So these monads for Leibniz are center of forces, and there are infinite center of forces. So Leibniz philosophy is a pluralist philosophy, and since he believes in pluralism, for him reality is many, and so there are infinite number of monads, and these monads are nothing but simple, indivisible, unextended unit of force. They are dynamic unit of dynamic force. So we have seen in the philosophy of Descartes that for Descartes, extension is the essential attribute. For Descartes, extension is the essential attribute of matter. But for Leibniz, it is not extension. Instead, it is force, which is the essential attribute of matter. Because for Leibniz, extension only belongs to a plurality or aggregate of matter. Extension only belongs to a plurality or aggregate of substances, but particular and individual substances has to be indivisible for Leibniz. So a group of substances cannot be fundamental in the sense of term. Instead, it is that which is indivisible only which can be fundamental, or the main principle, or the ultimate substance, which Leibniz call as monads. So these monads are like I have said, they are metaphysical point. They are neither material nor physical, nor they are mathematical. Instead, they are immaterial. They are immaterial center of forces. Now, when I say monads are indivisible, simple, unextended center of forces, what I mean is that this monads, what Leibniz means is that these monads are the fundamental principle, which are the building blocks of the entire universe. Okay, they are like the ultimate substances, and the entire world of physics, the entire universe of the entire mechanical universe has these monads as their foundation. And these monads for Leibniz are infinite in number. They are like the metaphysical points, and each metaphysical point is a center of force. Now, what does Leibniz means by force? Now, force is a tendency in the body to move. By force, what Leibniz means is a tendency in a body to move. So this the tendency to move in a body is what Leibniz call an unextended and a constant ground of motion. Okay, now his philosophy also talks about the principle of continuity, or the principle of continuum, which suggests that nature does not take any giant leaps. Instead, nature only make gradual progression. So when we see that there is a body which has come to rest, and and then after a certain while it has begun to move, and then after a certain while it has come to rest, we may happen to say that motion seems to be gained and motion seems to be lost. But for Leibniz, this would be a violation of the law of continuity, which suggests that there is no there is no giant leaps in nature, and every apparent changes, every changes that we see in nature is only a gradual progression. And so there must be a ground of motion, which is a tendency of a body to move, and this ground of motion is something which it calls as force or conatus, and this is something which is constant in quantity. Force is something which is constant in quantity, and it is the essential attribute of matter. Now Descartes would say that extension is the essential attribute of matter, but for Leibniz it is the force which is the essential attribute of matter, because every matter has a tendency in it to move. So there is an aspect, there is a property. Every matter has a nature in it by which it extends itself, it spreads itself, it sustains itself, it continues itself, and it also limits itself. So this principle is what is known as force. It is also known as the power of limitation or the power of resistance. So it is every matter has in it a principle called force by which it extends itself, it sustains or continues itself, and also it limits itself. So this force is something which is purposive. Okay, it has a purpose, it is teleological in nature, it is also self-determining, it is guided by itself, and also it is something which is force is also something which is self-limited, that is it imposes limit on itself, which suggests its power of resistance. Okay, and it is always oriented towards a goal, towards an expression of itself. So this is what is known as force for Leibniz. So it is the essential attribute of matter. Now for Leibniz, the whole universe is made up of such infinite units of force, okay, which are unextended and simple, and they are dynamic, and they are known as monads. Okay, they are the metaphysical points, and there are infinite number of monads. The soul, the human soul, is also such monad, and the body is also a plurality of monads. Okay, so there is a whole gradation of monads. So for Leibniz, there is a gradation of monads. There is a hierarchy of monads, from the lowest monad to the highest monad, from plants to animals to man to the highest monad, which is the monads of the monads, God. So there is a hierarchy or gradation of monads, and each monad has a power of representation and a power of perception. So there is a power of perception and the power of representation in every monad. So every monad represents the universe in its own point of view. Okay, every monad represents the universe in its own point of view, and in doing so, no monad can provide the same representation of the universe. If they happen to provide the same representation of the universe, or if they happen to mirror the universe alike or in the same way, then there would be no two monads. They would be one and the same monad. Okay, so monads for Leibniz is something that mirrors the entire universe in its own way and in its own degree of clarity in perception and volition. So every monad has this power of perception and representation. It also has in it a power of volition or expression. Okay, and they represent or express the universe in its own way according to its own point of view, depending upon the changes in the degree of their clarity in perception. Now when Leibniz talk about gradation in the monads, he says that the lowest monad will be the dullest piece of matter. Okay, the dullest piece of matter in where perception would be most obscure. And as we progresses above, we have the kingdom of the plants, where the perception is more or like torpid or in a comatose state. Then we have animals which have the perception and with perception as endowed with memory. So they are consciousness. So there is consciousness as animals because they have memory and also perception. And then higher than the animal kingdom, we have the kingdom of the Homo sapiens, we not only have perception and memory, but we also have apperception or self-consciousness. So here, in case of the Homo sapiens or in case of the human kingdom, we are conscious of the whole content of our thought, and this is something which distinguishes us from the animal kingdom, because we are self-conscious. We have a perception, which is we have a direct access to the whole working of our we have a direct access to the whole content of our mind. So we know as to what is happening inside our own mind. So there is a self-awareness in case of human. And again, we will Leibniz talks about that no monads can be numerically alike. That is, they cannot be numerically alike, although every monad has a power of perception and every monad has a power of perception and the power of expression, but yet there is a difference in the degree of the clarity of the perception or consciousness. And because they have a difference in the degree of the clarity of the perception or consciousness, they will not mirror the universe in the same way. And if they happen to mirror the universe in the same way, then they are not two different monads. They will be one and the same monad. So there may be monads which can have similar degree of clarity in their perception or monads, but however they will not mirror the universe exactly in the same manner, in spite of having the same degree of consciousness, in spite of having the same degree in the clarity of the consciousness, because their position in space and time would be different. So they will not represent the universe in identical manner, because although they have the same degree of perception, the same degree of clarity in consciousness or perception, since their position in space and time is different, they will not mirror the universe in an identical fashion or in an identical manner. So he says that no two monads are alike. So there is always a difference in the monad. There is a difference in the sense that if the monads happen to mirror the universe exactly in the same way, then they are not two monads, they are one and the same monad. So this also has to do with Leibniz law of identity of indiscernibles. Okay, law of identity of indiscernibles suggests that if x and y possesses the same properties, then x and y are not different, they are one and the same. Okay, so similarly, if two monads mirror the universe in the same way, then they are not two different monads, they are one and the same monad. So there will be always a difference in the way monads mirror or represent the universe. Why? Because there is a difference in the degree of degree of the clarity. There is a difference in clarity of the perception and in the clarity of their consciousness, and so they will mirror the universe differently according to their own point of view. However, he says that what is true for one monad standing in one point of space and time with a certain degree of clarity in perception or consciousness would be true for all. Okay, what is true for one monad will be true for all. However, no two monads will represent the universe in the same way, but what is true for one monad standing at a certain point in space and time and having a certain degree of clarity of consciousness or perception will be true for all monads. However, no two monads will mirror the universe in the same way, because there will always be a difference in the clarity of the perception and consciousness, and even if the clarity of the consciousness and perception is more or like similar, yet their position in space and time will be different, and so they will not mirror the universe in the like manner, in identical manner. And again, what Leibniz talk about monads is that this metaphysical point, this monads, what he says is that these monads are windowless. Windowless in the sense nothing can come from without. Nothing can come into it from without, and what is inside it cannot get lost, because it is windowless, because every monad is autonomous and it is windowless, and they does not interact upon one another. They cannot interact upon one another, and they are windowless. And however, every monad has the power of perception and the power of volition in them, and so they undertake the course of evolution, where in every stage of evolution they will unfold the potentialities which is already implicit in it. So because those potentialities can never come from outside sources, as monads are autonomous and as monads are windowless for Leibniz, nothing that which is potential in monad is something which is already implicit in the monad. Nothing external cause can have any impact on the monad, on the windowless monad, because they are autonomous in that sense. So nothing in the process of evolution, where the monads unfold their potentialities which is already implicit in it, in undertaking the course of evolution, nothing new is gained or nothing old is lost. Okay, nothing new is gained or nothing old is lost, because monads in that way are windowless, they are autonomous, and no external forces there can have any influence upon this monads or this metaphysical points, of which the human soul is also one of them. However, they have the power of volition, by which the power of expression, the power of representation, by which they undertake the process of evolution, so as to unfold the potentialities which is already implicit in the monad. Again, Leibniz talks about organic matter and inorganic matter. He says that in case of organic matter, in case of living beings or organic matter, there is a queen monad which is known as the central monad, or the queen monad or the central monad is also what is known as the soul, okay, which guides the monad surrounding it. Okay, it guides the monad surrounding it, and it is the picture of the entire body. And inorganic matter, on the other hand, does not have this queen monad or the central monad, and hence there is no union among them. So they are only aggregate of monads. Inorganic matter are only aggregate or mass of monads with no union among them. There is no union among them. Why? Because this union is something which is brought about by the central monad or the queen monad, which is the soul, and is present in all organic matter, and it is a picture of the entire body. And as I have already mentioned, Leibniz talks about gradation of the monads. So there is a gradation in the monads. The higher monad is the God, which is the monad of the monads, and he has the most clearest perception of all. So for him, God is not just a monad, but he's also a personal God. He's a person, he's an individual, and he's supernatural and he's super rational. Okay, and he views everything all at once in a glance. He views everything once and for all and once and forever. So this is God exercising his absolute power of perception, or clarity in vision, or clarity in consciousness. And again, Leibniz talks about the doctrine of pre-established harmony, which says that which tries to explain the relationship between the mental world and the physical world. Now, Leibniz says that since no monads can have any causal interaction among them, since they are windowless, yet any changes in the mental world will bring about concomitant changes in the physical world, or any changes in the physical world will bring about concomitant changes in the mental world. Why? Because God has regulated a kind of harmony between them, so that they always work together, they always go together. Okay, although there is no causal interaction between them, there is a harmony which has been pre-established by God between these monads, so as to fulfill his purpose. Okay, and it is something which is pre-established even before the advent of time, if I may say. So this pre-established harmony also has its roots in the fact that for Leibniz, every monad is a indivisible union of both matter and mind. Okay, every monad is an indivisible union of both matter and mind. Since every monad is an indivisible union of both matter and mind, any changes in the mental world will bring about certain changes, concomitant changes in the material world, and any changes in the material world bring about concomitant changes in the mental world. Not because one is the cause of another or one causes the other, but because there is a pre-established harmony between them, which has been established by God even before the advent of time. And is there something more to say? Yeah, I would like to say about I would like to discuss about how Leibniz tried to prove the existence of God in his philosophy. So Leibniz is a very famous philosopher and a very famous mathematician. He's famous for his infinite calculus, and he is a philosopher of the modern period. And he tries to prove the existence of God by ontologically saying that God is someone who is actus purus. Actus purus, by actus purus was Leibniz means is that every possibility is also an actuality in God. Okay, that is what is possible in case of every other monad. Every other monad have two aspects: that which is possible and that which is actual. But in case of God, every possibility is also an actuality, is also fully existent. Okay, because he is the most perfect being. He is the most perfect being, and what is possible is also actual and fully realizable in God. Is fully existent in God. So this is one point from which he tried to establish the existence of God, and there is another point. He tried to prove the existence of God by the laws of physics, or the eternal truths, which are what he says the eternal thoughts in the mind of God. So the eternal truths like the laws of physics, the laws of mechanics are they are the eternal thoughts in the mind of God, and these laws of physics have their ground in the wisdom of God, and it presupposes the divine purpose. So God uses these laws of physics in a way to realize his purpose. Okay, and then he says there is the cosmological argument for the existence of God, which says that the universe is contingent, it is dependent on God, because God is the sufficient reason of this entire universe. So here we see that Leibniz is moving away from Spinoza. I'll discuss about Spinoza in one of the lecture, but here I'm talking about Leibniz. But here, when Leibniz says that God is someone who is external to the universe, in that the universe is contingent or dependent on him, because God is the sufficient reason of this entire universe. He tries to be different from his view is different from Spinoza in maintaining. Spinoza, who maintains that the entire universe itself is God. So Spinoza himself subscribes to a view of pantheism. Okay, according to which nature or the universe itself is God. God is not something which is external to the universe. Rather, God is something which is the universe. The nature itself is God. So here, Leibniz says that nature, or he does not say that nature or the universe is itself God. Okay, so here he tries to be in sync with the scholastic philosophers who maintain that God is an outer cause. He's something who is independent of the worldly affairs. He's something who is independent of the natural causes. He exercises supreme authority over the natural causes. And he is someone who is a sufficient reason on whom the entire universe is dependent upon. So here Leibniz more or less subscribed to the scholastic view of philosophy, who says that God is not to be equated with nature or the mechanical world. Instead, the whole mechanical world or the whole forces of nature is dependent on God, because God is the sufficient reason of this entire contingent universe.